watching Progressive Talk Radio on TV today. This show will actually air on Tuesday, November 2nd, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, November 2nd is Tuesday. That's the first Tuesday of the month when Progressive Talk Radio on TV airs live out of Oregon City, but this one will be taped. Today, I have our actual host, Moses Ross, with me. He's our guest today. And we're going to give you the quick and dirty on the elections and what's happening in the world of politics. Since Moses is drenched in this is what he does. I'm going to have him take the lead here. Moses, how are you doing? And we just ran down a couple of things that we were going to talk about. So first off, let's go with how are you doing and what's happening in current events?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for asking, Sherry. I've been, I work in the industry as I do call center work for clients, for Democrats. And so I get to see firsthand all these crazy efforts to get out the vote, and I get to participate in that. And so it makes for, as we get closer and closer to election day, it just gets busier and busier for me. More candidates are trying to get the word out about their race and trying to get people to vote. So yeah, it's an exciting time for those of us that are political nerds like myself who really get into this and enjoy it. So it's a good time.
It is a very good time. And we have some current events that might need some attention. So Mr. Paul Pelosi being assaulted is one thing I would like to touch on. The current status of the January 6th committee and what I'd like your input on what Miss Liz Cheney is doing. And there's just a plethora. Oh, yeah, and we're going to get down to a couple other current event things that I want to talk about, like Herschel Walker, but that's going to be later when we discuss the Warnock-Walker election and that fiasco. So what insight do you have on Mr. Pelosi?
Oh, that is just an awful situation, and it just goes to show the intense degradation of the political discourse right now, and how, quite frankly, the Republicans and the fear that they are pushing out there, the fear of everything, of the fear of Democrats. I mean, my goodness, this guy was the person that assaulted Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's husband, was spouting QAnon theories on his publicly. He, supported Trump, and he was taking literally the things that people were saying, that the Republicans were saying about how Pelosi is, X and Y, and so it just kind of, this ball starts to roll downhill, and we go past these basic norms of political discourse, and this is what we end up with.
Well, and that brings up another question that I have, because I've been hearing for years how Nancy Pelosi is the devil and she's horrible and she's going to be the end of the Democratic Party and all of this stuff. And when I listen to Mrs. Pelosi, she seems to have a lot of common sense. She knows what she's doing. She understands her vote, the level of votes that she has in her caucus, and she understands how the entire policy generating activity works. She understands her constituents, and she, I would argue, while not perfect, is very much in line with what many of us want this nation to be, which is helping the common people, having a good healthcare system, having a good education system, and making sure everybody is working, right?
Oh,
She doesn't
absolutely.
seem to be a whack job to me. And I have actually heard Republicans say, once they got off Fox News, yeah, I was listening to her and wow, I don't even see where these claims are coming from.
Right. And that's exactly. And that's the sad thing about this right there. Is that's the sad thing about this whole thing, Sherry, is that it doesn't have to be like this. There used to be a time where political differences were respected, and we would be able to have intelligent conversations with our political opponents, and then go out and be friends with them afterwards. And it's this degradation of the political discourse that is led to this, and it's really unfortunate. And if I'm really afraid that if the midterms go red and more of those Republicans, those Trumpites, get into power, the election deniers get into elected positions, it's going to get worse. It's going to get a lot worse. And quite frankly, and I think that's kind of what they want. At least the
Yeah.
leadership of the Republicans, the leadership of those far right fringes, they want this kind of chaos. It's the
Yeah.
old Batman Joker mentality of, some people want to do it just to watch it burn, you know, and it's really sad and it's really unfortunate. And I do have a solution to that, and that is to encourage people to get out there and vote. I mean, that's fundamentally what they're trying to prevent us from doing by bringing down that level of discourse, is to stop us from caring, to stop us from participating, to
Yeah.
discourage us.
Yeah.
And so I
Intimidate. That
intimidate.
was something else. Oops. That was I'm trying to get brighter light in here. That was something else that I wanted to talk with you about. Have you been seeing the level of intimidation in some of the state elections where people are standing at the ballot boxes and they look hilarious? They have the old mask thing going on, like they're trying to be all bully mean people and stuff, and intimidating voters. And I've just envisioned to myself, I'd be like, hey, but that's just me and that's just who I am, right? Not everybody is like that. And I think that this could cause a lot of strife in communities that are already dealing with horrible obstacles to their ability to vote.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Men with big guns and small penises are standing out in front of polling stations trying to prevent people and intimidate
Exactly.
people to go out there and do their public right, and it
Yeah.
is just sickening.
Their
And
civic duty.
their civic duty,
That's
absolutely.
what kills me is this is a civic duty. And the Republicans across the board in state after state after state are trying to infringe on our ability to to do our civic duty. And that in itself should be against the law. Last time I looked, voter intimidation was a crime.
And what's so funny about it, and what's beautiful about where we live here in Oregon and in the Pacific Northwest is the fact that we can vote in the comfort of our home, in the privacy of our home. We can take our time to be able to deliberate the different issues and learn about them. And then we don't have to go to a particular polling place to drop off our ballot. We can just put it in the mailbox,
Yep.
And that's one of the biggest. That's I'm proud to be an Oregonian. I'm proud to live in Washington, to be a Pacific Northwesterner, because they have the same situation up in Washington,
Yep.
nowadays.
No.
So these folks are trying to leverage this their positions, their intimidation to get their way politically. Pure and simple. And it's unfortunate. And we've got to do whatever we can do to stop that. And the easiest thing that we can do is just make sure to go vote. I mean, that's
Yeah.
That's the easiest and most efficient way that we can make sure that these things don't occur, or to make a statement against them. You do exactly what they're trying to prevent you to do.
As someone who, when I originally moved to Seattle, and for years after, we had to go to the polling place to place our votes, to do our civic duty, right? Even when I was in California, I had to, and in Colorado. When I lived back east, I was too young to vote. But in the states that I've lived in, I was there when you had to do voting place voting, right? With the little cubicles and everything. That was how I first voted. And I remember when Washington transitioned into mail-in voting, I was so happy for us to be able to do that, because as Johnny and I do now, we sit at the table together and we go through the voter pamphlet along with our ballots, and we have discussions about who we're going to vote for and why, or what measures we're going to vote for and why. Should we? Does it sound like a good idea? What do you think? Let's do some research, right? That gives us that opportunity to do this. Where and when you had to go to the polling place, you didn't really even think about it until you got into the booth.
That's
I mean,
right.
you're hearing conversations, and yeah, you're pondering the things, but you didn't necessarily take the time with your significant other or your kids or whatever to talk about what the ballot measures were right there in front of you and decide.
And it's so important too to have that kind of conversation with with your people, with your friends, and with your relatives, and with your loved ones. Because the more you're able to share with them or get their opinions, the better informed you are when you actually cast that vote. It's like, I'll give you a great example of, like, here in the city of Portland, we're having an election on. There's a measure that will change the form of the city government.
Right.
And as you learn more about that, you realize how comprehensive it is, and how much of a hard turn it is making, a dramatic change it is making. And there's no dispute that we need that change. We really do. I mean, we have a dysfunctional city government right now here in Portland, in the way that it was set up. And so I personally am very enthusiastically voting yes for that charter reform, for that government reform. The problem is that vested interests have will lose a lot of power and influence because of that change. Business associations, certain city councilors, yeah, they're going to be losing a lot of influence. And so they're making money right now off of the current system of government, and people are going to lose power. The mayor will turn it from a strong mayor to a weak mayor system, because they'll be hiring a city administrator finally, to manage the affairs of the day-to-day affairs of the city of Portland, versus relying on city councilors to manage bureaus that they have no experience in as assignments from the mayor. So the more you learn about it, the more you understand how good it is and how beneficial it is. And you have to take the time to learn about it. That's my point here, is that if you take the time and you dig into it and you see how comprehensive it is and how well it was thought out, you immediately say, oh, of course we have to do this. But if you're going from a knee-jerk reaction, if you don't have that chance to really sit down and analyze it, that's where you can get preconceptions. That's how you can get misconceptions about what it will do and how it will work. And that's what they're hoping for. Opponents of it are hoping for that. They're hoping that to push that way of thinking about it, without you having to really dig into the weeds. They want to do the thinking for you.
Right.
And so, and the whole point here is the importance of being able to sit down and actually investigate these things that we're voting on.
KBOO did a teach-in on Measure 222 26 to 28.
Uh-huh.
And I will see if there's a video of it. And if there is, I will post it around because hopefully the whole intent was to teach the residents of Portland, the Portland metro area, what the impact is of that measure and why they're endorsing it.
Right. What it boils down to is having to do your homework on this. And fortunately, in Oregon and in Washington, we have a system that allows us to take the time to do the homework with the ballot right in front of us. We don't have to make a quick reaction while we're at the polling place. Yep. And hey, and just real quick, I just wanted to mention too, I also have memories of going to the polling station with my dad and, closing the curtain and doing him doing his thing. And there's a sentimental value to that, of course. You people have that, experience and they want to duplicate it again. But there is nothing like sitting at your kitchen table and doing it.
No,
there is absolutely nothing. It's very enjoyable to be able to take your time and do it right.
I wish that we had been able to do that when my kids were younger, because I would have very much had them, encourage them to come and sit with me and vote and learn about the issues that we were voting on. And I think I'm trying to remember, but when we did start getting our ballots in the mail, my kids were older. And I didn't get into the practice of talking with them about politics, though I would express my views, right? And they express theirs. And there are times when we clash. We very much clash because they're another side of the family has significantly different views than I do.
Very diplomatically put.
And so we have our clashes periodically, and I wish that I had taken the time when they were younger to involve them more in the voting and real rationalization, not rationalization necessarily, but a reasoning and understanding of why it's important to have clear understanding of what you're voting for.
Sure.
Absolutely. Like Measure 114. There's I've heard some conflicts on it regarding payment. How is this being paid for? I don't care. Somebody else might, but I don't care. It's got to get done. This is a step in the right direction.
And you're talking about the gun measure, the gun control measure?
Yes.
Yeah. That's been an interesting debate, I'll have to admit. I mean, okay, pros and cons. Okay, one of the things, one of the arguments against it, which I was kind of made sense to me, was that it requires you to go to your county sheriff, local police enforcement to register your weapons when you purchase them, and they issue the permits. And at first glance, that makes a lot of sense. But then I've also heard the argument, though, that it disenfranchises people of color and minority communities, because it does make them have to go and face a police force that can be discriminatory against them. And so there's going to be less motivation for them to go and get those permits, and it's a form of subjective.
Do you think that's manufactured or is it real? Because it seems to me they would be, and I'm not a person of color, I don't know their experience, I understand this. However, I am a woman, right? And I understand being disenfranchised. I understand maybe not at that level, but wouldn't it seem that they would open themselves up to credibility and trust on both sides having this happen?
Yes, but there's so many years of so many examples of the discrimination by the police,
True.
George Floyd up at the very top.
True.
That there's a major amount of distrust, and it's hard to break through that. And we were having at the Multnomah County Democrats, we were considering endorsing that, what to do, whether or not to endorse that measure. And we had heated debates, people pro and con. We've got to do something. This is a start. It's better than nothing. We have to have some sort of control of these guns, and management of these guns, and control the ability of people to be able to go get them in the first place. Makes a lot of sense to me. Well, then you've got these minority communities that are rightly worried that they're not going to be able to own a gun legally, and it'll be used against them because the police will be discriminatory and prejudicial in issuing these permits to these minority communities. There's a precedent for that. I mean, there's examples of that happening. So I see that point of view too. Fundamentally, when it comes down to it, for me, and I hope this is not my white privilege coming through, I'm going to vote yes on it.
I did vote yes.
Yeah, and I hope that we can make changes to it that will prevent those concerns within the minority communities.
Yes. One should be that if their federal background check came back clean and they have that in their hand, the police department has no right to reject a registration at all. And that, to me, makes everybody on the same playing field.
As long as it is done, as you say, on a level playing field, equitably, I think it could work. But I have to acknowledge those concerns that the minority communities brought up during that debate, and admit that as a white man, I'm not going to face that kind of discrimination. And so it's hard for me I can acknowledge and respect where they're coming from.
Yes. Oh, so, for sure.
Yeah. That's part of the issue that you have to take into account, and you do your homework on these issues that you're voting on,
So what accountability do we have on the sheriffs to do their job? To just do their job blindly, do their job. We approved a measure that states everybody, and supposing it passes, we approved a measure stating that everybody who owns a gun needs to have it registered. Black, white, green, purple, whatever. As long as they have that piece of paper in their hand, you have no right to disenfranchise, to reject a registration for that person, nor do you have a right to use that registration as a weapon against that person.
Yeah.
There has to be some sort of legislation or law going through Oregon State Congress that mandates these as, I'm sorry, but we don't trust you.
Well, you know what? It has to have those, what's the word? Checks and balances. It's got to have some accountability on the police department side.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, Lord only knows, there are many examples of police departments without accountability, doing nefarious things, doing bad things to minority communities, and so I get it. We have to make sure that those fail safes are in there, that those checks and balances are in there. I agree with you 110%. And we've got to make sure that the Oregon legislature puts those into place, and that the police, the sheriffs, or whomever is regulating it, are being fair, are being transparent in how they're going about it. If we can get to that point, maybe this will work. But I sure am tired of reading about kids being killed by AR-16s or whatever. It just pisses me off.
Yep.
And I am so ready.
People in the grocery store, people at the movie theater, people everywhere.
It's ridiculous.
We've freaking, yes, something has to happen, whether it's completely right or not, it still has to happen.
And at least, thank goodness, here in Oregon, we're trying to tackle it. You know, I mean, you know, we don't have our blinders on like in Texas. Oh, here, let's just issue guns to everybody and see what happens. It'll be fine. No big deal, you know, as kids get shot in their classrooms by 18-year-olds that legally were able to buy AR automatic guns, you know, because just crazy,
77
absolutely crazy.
77% of mass shootings are perpetrated by people who bought their guns legally.
What does that tell you? That tells you something's wrong with the legal system right now.
Exactly. And that's been the point. So elections are just a week away. What does the Oregon landscape look like?
The Oregon landscape is fluid right now, I think. You know, as of I'd seen, okay, first off, before I go down this road, I want to just say that polls are just snapshots in time.
Yes.
Polls don't mean anything when it comes to election day. All polls are telling you how 400 people at one moment in time particularly felt. Okay, so the polls in the Oregon governor race have gone all over the place. They have showed Christine Drazan up. They have showed Tina up. They have consistently showed Betsy in the 20s, which is interesting, which is surprising. I really thought that I thought that she would appeal, and I think a lot of Democrats did, she would appeal more to the Republican voter than to the Democratic voter. And so, but she's kind of appealing to neither. You know, she's kind of,
she's a fraud. She
just is. Interesting. You know, just by her numbers being in the low 20s, high teens, tells me that people have seen through that image that she puts out there as a tough neutral legislature, and she's just acting mean out on the campaign trail, and people don't like that. You know, I don't want to have some mean woman yelling at me while I'm legislating me.
Exactly.
You know, so. Exactly. So that's what's going on. Her level of support is kind of leveling off. Her support is kind of leveling off. So the real race is between Drazan and Kotek, and who gets their voters out and who votes. If the Democrats, especially the Democrats from Multnomah County, get out there and they vote the same levels that they did in 2016 and in 2010, in 2012, no problem. We will win this race. Tina Kotek will win this race. She's not going to win it by a majority. She'll win it, as I've predicted before, 37%. You know, and that's what it's going to boil down to, is the efforts of Democrats to get out there and just vote for Tina. You know, do not allow, because a vote for Betsy and a vote for Christine. Pure and simple. A vote for Betsy is a vote for the Republican.
Right.
And if we get a Republican in, if Christine Drazan wins, we're not going to have she will do everything in her power to prevent women's choice in reproductive rights. Yep. That is a known deal.
Well, that's the Republican Party platform.
That's part of exactly. The governorship is a pretty powerful position, and we need to make sure that Tina wins. If the Democrats need to make sure that she wins. So I am still seeing that it's still very close. We'll know in a week and a half, you know. But I still think it's going to be very. I'm still sticking with my prediction of 37% for Tina. So that's a good juicy race. Let's see what else is going on statewide. There is the Oregon Commissioner of Labor and Industries. That's kind of a snoozer, but it is a statewide. And Christine Stevenson is the Democrat. Sherry Helt is the Republican. Technically, it's a nonpartisan race.
Right.
But you get what you get when you vote for them. Right. You know, if you vote for the Sherry, you're going to get a Republican perspective on labor. If you vote for Christine, you're going to get a Democratic Party perspective on labor, more apprenticeship programs, more assistance, you know, yada, yada, yada. So that's a good race. Let's see. Oh, congressional races up and down the Willamette corridor. There's three awfully good races right now. You've got Jamie McLeod Skinner versus Hispanic woman over there. Lori.
Not Perez. Is it Perez? I forget her name.
Lori. Oh, okay. Anywho, she's got a good race over there, and that's the new district over there that when she defeated Kurt Schrader to run in that. Then, of course, you have the one with Andrea Salinas going up against Mike Erickson. And if you've been watching any TV over the last month,
Lori Chavez. Lori Chavez.
That's right, Lori Chavez. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's it's funny how easy it is to get your perceptions of a candidate from the commercials, and you have to really watch it that you don't fall susceptible to those characterizations that those advertisements are making. I love what McLeod Skinner said at a speech the other day. Because in their ads against her, she's a San Francisco liberal, and she goes, "Why don't they just come right out and say I'm lesbian?"
I missed that one.
I think that was a perfect rebuttal. I mean, why don't they just come out and just say lesbian?
Not only that, but in Chavez's commercial, she is speaking straight to the far right wing of the party and really insulting their intelligence. I mean, she's going along the Fox News wavelength of the extreme right wing party and insulting people's intelligence, making the Green New Deal sound socialist, making anything that Jamie McLeod believes in as a socialist agenda, which tells me nobody over there knows what socialism is. Right?
Exactly. It's the politics of fear, Sherry. The politics of fear. The Republicans are becoming masterful at it, and you see it every single day in all their advertisements and their platform. The fear of the other, the fear of the homeless, the fear of the blue tarp, the fear of the Californians moving in and changing our lifestyle, the fear of X, the fear of Y. And take a look at that, and then you look at the Democratic Party's platform and the candidates, and they're not talking fear, they're talking hope. They're talking the future.
What we want to happen.
What we want to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where we have to hang our hat. We just have to. We can't. Fear can be overcome through knowledge.
Yes. Lord forbid.
Exactly. And that's what we have to focus on, and that's that knowledge and educating our voters. So we've got a lot on our plate. There's a lot of good races out there. Okay, so Andrea Salinas is running against another a Republican in this new congressional district that has been created. You have Val Hoyle taking over, running for Peter DeFazio's old seat down there in Lane County. Her opponent, Alex Skarlekos, I think his name is, his only claim to fame was that he was one of those soldiers that were on a train that captured a terrorist that was trying to take over the train in Europe.
Okay. Yeah. I remember that. That's right. Yeah.
And he happened to be, that was him. And
that's right. Yeah.
And so when he came back after his service, the Republican Party said, "Hey, you've got some name recognition, my man. Let's see, get you into politics." And so this was his second attempt at trying to run, but he's going to lose because he's an extremist, and his record is really poor. And you can't create a political career on one major incident. I mean, you can try, but sometimes it happens. But I don't think it's going to happen with this
like
guy.
Kyle Rittenhouse. I think he's gone.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. I mean, that's a whole nother story. But yeah, it's the idea that they're trying to, leverage that the fame that he had in certain circles,
which was stupid. Mm-hmm. You don't go and kill two people in cold blood and be considered a hero. Sorry.
Well, I mean, it was the circumstances, of course, because it was a terrorist
No.
attack, yada yada. But still, I agree.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. That
Yeah,
guy with the terrorist attack is different.
yeah. And he's leveraging it, and I don't blame him. But
Right.
when you start to dig deeper into his background and into his positions, you realize this man is nothing like a Peter DeFazio. He can't even shine Peter DeFazio's shoes.
Right.
So
Right.
we've got to get. Val Hoyle has to win. Val Hoyle, of course, is the Labor and Industries Commissioner right now. Now she's trying to get to run for that seat. So you got the three congressional races. Earl Blumenauer is running again because state reps or Congress runs every 2 years. So he's running in minimal opposition. Let's see, Ron Wyden is running.
Wyden.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And Ron is he'll win.
I voted for him.
You can't argue against success. And Ron has been an extraordinary senator for Oregon, and we'd be crazy to not reelect him. We'd be crazy. We'd lose so much influence. And between him and Jeff Merkley, we're one of the more senior teams in there. So
yep.
So that's happening good. Let's see what else is happening in the world out there. You've got some really. So that's about basically the big races. That's the big races in Oregon right there.
Right. And so you were also mentioning the top race on your docket is the Fetterman-Oz race.
It is. This is a race that has all the elements of a very contentious political race. It started out where it seemed obvious that Dr. Oz was a carpetbagger, unqualified carpetbagger coming into Pennsylvania, trying to, win this race. And it's amazing what money can do in forming a theme or an opinion about somebody. And so he's been the Republicans have been rallying around him. They've been the Republican senatorial committees are putting money into this race again. Fetterman, and Fetterman, though, has been a masterful campaigner, given the fact that, he had a stroke and he was kind of prevented from campaigning for a couple of weeks.
Yes.
But he's been able to I've been very impressed with his social media strategies. He's been very astute and sharp on using social media to negate to perpetuate this image of Oz, to push this image of Oz that he wants to push as a carpetbagger, as someone that is out of the loop, that doesn't understand the common person, that sort of thing,
Right.
And if you ever get a chance to go to his social media, like his Twitter account or his TikTok's accounts, check him out because he's pretty good.
He is.
I'm pretty impressed. And it's also that the way that he's been using it will be a model, I think, for political scientists, scholars, for a real long time. It's the new wave. It's how you got to use social media now to get the word out. And the better you are at it, the better you'll do.
Oh, the social media team they have at the White House now. Oh, that's so funny. They are scrappy people.
Well, the woman that took over the social media strategy for the White House,
right,
used to work for the governor of New Jersey.
That's what I heard.
And the New Jersey social media accounts, the Twitter accounts, she really established her bones up there. Let's put it that way. It's a really good account, and she's really aggressive. One of the things about social media is that you can do quick. You can be so quick in responding to a circumstance. And she was, like, for instance, with well, she was really aggressive in pushing back against the Republicans when Joe got the Income Reduction Act passed.
Yes. Yeah.
And she was really sharp, and she made some cutting comments on the social media. Yep. And it was just
well, and she was showing the hypocrisy of the Republican Party in their face, in front of them, using their words and their votes against them. So exactly. That was fabulous.
And it does help, and it kind of almost writes itself sometimes. I mean, with some of these candidates. I mean, let's talk about Georgia, Governor, the Reverend Warnock against Herschel Walker.
Yeah, we were going to talk about that. Was next on my list.
Well, I mean, talk about a candidate that just begs for mocking on social media in Herschel Walker. I mean, you may have seen during a debate, he pulled out a wallet with a sheriff's badge in there to show his law enforcement credentials, and it was a fake badge.
Next time we do this, we have to get together beforehand so I have the assets available.
Oh, what, like the image of the badge?
Yeah.
There were some fantastic memes out there making fun of him for that. I don't know if anybody has seen them, but there's this meme going around of these costume sets. Oh, there you go. Apparently pulls out badge during debate.
I didn't. Hold on a minute.
Skip bad.
Hold on. I forgot to share with sound. Hold on. Optimize video clip. Okay, here we go. And we will skip the video.
One thing I have not done, I've never pretended to be a police officer, and I've never threatened a shootout with the police.
Well, and now I have to respond to that.
We are moving on, gentlemen.
I have to respond to that. And you know what's so funny? I am with many police officers, and at the same time,
Mr. Walker, Mr. Walker, Mr. Walker, excuse me, Mr. Walker, please, out of respect, I need to let you know, Mr. Walker, you are very well aware of the rules tonight.
Yes.
And you have a prop. Yes. That is not allowed, sir. Yeah. I asked you to.
A prop.
Well, it's not.
That just is cringy. That is cringy in how bad that is. I don't know what else to say. And the fact that they would even consider voting for this man, I just do not understand that.
Hold on.
And I've been hearing some polls that, he's within a couple of percentage points, which is just absolutely
That's
crazy.
Ridiculous.
Oh, that's awful. Oh, look at that one up there with the from the X-Files showing. Oh, that's funny. Yes, obviously this is really getting some. Oh my goodness.
So yeah, let's see. Hold on, because I want to get an update.
That's hilarious.
Herschel Walker versus Warnock polls. So
be careful of those polls, Sherry. Those
I know.
Polls will kill us.
They will too. This is his fundraiser.
That's interesting.
That's hilarious.
That really kind of is, actually. That's an official fundraiser too.
Yeah, right here, Warnock, Georgia, critical fundraising deadline.
They're really making fun of him. Holy smokes.
Wow.
He kind of begs to have, he was the one that pulled out the fake badge. He deserves all the mocking that he gets, quite frankly, here.
What I wanted was, what is today? Today's the 30th.
Uh-huh.
I wanted a poll. This is from the 12th. They aren't doing it. Today is Sunday. They should be doing this.
They will. I'm sure. Oh, there we go. Was that, what date is that?
This is October 5th.
I tell you, once again, those polls, though, I mean, it'll probably, look at just using that as an example, 50 to 38, 7% undecided, and scroll up, and 5% for the other candidates. 7 plus 38 does not equal 50.
No.
You know what I mean? So all those undecideds could break for Herschel Walker and he'd still lose. You know, heck, add the 5 and the 7 and the 38 together, and it's a tie. You know,
right?
So
exactly.
My point being is, you know, if as long as Reverend Warnock does not do anything to do anything stupid, I think he'll be okay. You know,
I just think it's dumb that they're that close. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, there's always going to be, you know, it's like, have you ever heard the saying, "I'm a blue dog Democrat"?
Yes.
All right, or a yellow dog Democrat.
I've heard blue dog.
About because there was, back in the day, I'd vote for a yellow dog before I'd vote for a Republican. You know.
Right.
And unfortunately, those people that are voting for Herschel Walker, right, are what you might call red dogs in Georgia. You know, they're red dog Republicans. They doesn't matter who the candidate is or where they're at or who they are. They got an R by their name to vote. Right. You know, and I'll be the first to admit, as a Democrat, I have done that. You know, I don't know anything about this guy. Has he got a D? Does she have a D by her name?
I've done it.
Okay, I'm going to just go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a precedent.
But they haven't been major races.
Right.
They've always been, you know, county commissioner race or something like that. They have never been national, this impacts your life races. You know, for those, you want to know who you are voting for.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, let's just go back in 2016.
Exactly.
You know? A presidential race, you know. Holy smokes.
That's something I want to make very, 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 very clear to the people in our communities, and however far this goes, this video, I've told my kids this too. Who we vote for, the people in Washington, even the people at our state legislature, every move they make impacts our lives. So we need to be careful about who we're putting in office. That's why I was just so offended by the level of support that Trump got, because do you guys not understand? And my kids were like, "Oh, I'm not going to vote. I don't know," and everything. It was, excuse me, what? You do understand that if you do not vote, you don't have a voice. And you are stuck with whomever somebody else said is okay. You need to vote. Those people, abortion, our right as women to have full autonomy over our own full jurisdiction over our own bodies was taken away because of who people voted to have put in office, and then slammed in unqualified Supreme Court candidates, right? Who lied. Each one of them lied about their belief that Roe v. Wade was precedent. They lied about it because they knew from past confirmations that if you tell the truth about that subject alone, you are going to not get confirmed. And it was too important. Each of them needs to be impeached for perjury because they lied. Every one of them.
Yeah. Oh, agreed. You know, and
that's my
they did lie. I mean, it's you know, you can look back at their testimony right now for Amy Coney Barrett. You can look back at Gorsuch. You can look back at Kavanaugh. And every single one of those people lied about their position.
They lied.
you
Yes,
know,
they did.
or obfuscate, or, you know.
No, they didn't obfuscate. They lied. They sat there and said, no, it is precedent. There is no reason for us to change what has been precedent and standing law in this nation for 50 years. They lied.
Yep.
We have just a few more minutes. I wanted to talk about Stacey Abrams and her potential to be the governor of Georgia.
I'm so sorry. Say that one more time, Sherry.
So we have to, you have somebody coming in, and we are actually running a little short on time. Marv's going to have my head. So I wanted your input on Stacey Abrams. What do you see in that race?
I see a tough road. You've got an established Republican governor who is getting millions of dollars from special interests, and you have an African American woman who has dedicated her life to helping people vote and
disenfranchise
people in Georgia. There's a really good chance that she could win. There is a very good chance that she could win. The polls aren't showing it, but what does give me hope was the turnout of early voting.
178,000.
Early voting numbers are
now.
much, much higher than they have ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And always, as you know, early voting usually is from Democrats.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I know what's going to happen. Let's say that she does win. Let's say that early vote is indicative of the Democratic turnout in Georgia for that race, and she pulls it out. Well, you know that Republican is going to use the Trump excuse of, oh, well, those are votes, you know, it's, you know, they're going to lie. They're going to say that the votes were illegal, tampered, yada, yada, yada. It's going to be, and that's what I have to admit, I'm not looking forward to that post-election. All of the lying and all of the arguments against the vote that you know that the Republican Party is going to start saying. I mean, it's going to happen here in Oregon. You're going to hear them quacking about the governor's race after Tina wins. You're going to they're just going to quack, 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 disenfranchisement, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
And same thing down there in Georgia, in all of these contested races. You know, Arizona, that's another one. I mean, you've got some wackos. Wackos.
Kari Lake, right?
The election deniers running for governor of Arizona.
Oh, she's worse than an election denier. Have you heard Kari Lake on some of these interviews? She's a reporter, and she knows how reporters do their job, right? So she tries to flip it on them and confuse, like dirty the waters, like confuse everybody about what they should be thinking about and why her stance is the one to be on as an election denier. And she's got all of this evidence, but again, refuses to show anything.
Yep. Because she doesn't have any. That's what she's just using that as an argument to cast doubt on the results and to appeal to her skeptical base. You know, to appeal to her uneducated and uncaring base of voters, and hopefully peel off enough ignorant ones from the Dem side or independent, quote, independent side, not affiliates, to win. And it's a travesty is what it is. It just makes me sick to think that, you know, we have this much tension in being pushed against our election systems, the integrity of our systems, you know.
It held up. It held up.
It has held up, but I worry that it will, you know, you can only take so many strikes of a sledgehammer to a cement pillar until that cement pillar starts to, you know, erode.
The only way the cement pillar is going to erode is if we put the wrong people in the wrong places. It's on us. It really is. It's on us voters. That the people are just doing what the people do. We are the voters. It's on us if our infrastructure is crumbling. That's our fault. And shame on us for that.
Shame on us. I think, our awesome, it's like the old, and this might be a good line to leave on, and that is the old Benjamin Franklin line. We've given you a republic if you can keep it.
If you can keep it. That's a fact. Yep.
And unfortunately, these are trying times right now, but what it all boils down to, my dear viewers, is go vote, please.
Go vote. Get out the vote. That's going to be a piece of this.
Let your opinion known.
Moses, thank you for visiting with me today. Community, thank you for watching Progressive TV on Progressive Radio on TV. Marv, thank you for posting this on the Willamette Falls Media channels. And Willamette Falls Media Studios is located in Oregon City at 1101 Jackson, Oregon City 97045. Call them, get in there, get your show on. And thank you. Thank you for being here and vote. Go vote. I'm going to cut off.